consecutive wars. When the war against Sichon ended, maybe not long afterwards, did the war against Og, the king of the Bashan, begin? That could be number one. Number two, geographically, one area is right after the other area. Okay, we explained yesterday on the map, we conquered the area until the half of the Gilad. Half of the Gilad until where the Yabok waters are. Yabok waters spilling into the Jordan River. And this war, as we're going to see in the Psukim here in chapter 3, will clearly, I think there will be a clear notation, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we'll see it in verse 13. We'll see in verse 13 how the next part of the Gilad is conquered. The next part of the Gilad is conquered. So at least we have two reasons why this is being stated here. What I like to do is read the entire section, explain it, and then ask ourselves, does the main topic of the beginning of the book of Devarim, namely Devarim, Dibur, Tochachot, rebuke, is there or is there not rebuke here? Or is it only a speech of encouragement and support? Let's read and see what we can understand. Perek Gimel Pasuk Aleph. Vanefen vanaal derech habashan. Is it clear to all of us? You know what? We're going to ask Mr. Adler to bring in back of the chair that the administrator sits in there. There's a big map.
Oh, which one was it?
In back of the one of the teachers that sits in the office there, in back of his chair, there's a map that we can bring in. It says Misrad. If you can bring that big map in. It's by the far wall. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Vanefen, we turned, Vanal, and we went up. Did we go up in altitude? Why does it have to say Vanal? So Rashi immediately answers, Kol Tzatzafon Hu Aliyah. Are you going up north? Are you going down south? Not only in Alabama do they say going down south, but here in Earth, the world, Tzafon is going up, right? In all maps in the world. Isn't the north going up or not? Yeah, they are, right? Going up, and south is going down. So where did they get that from? God. Here it says, Vanef, we turned and we went up. Derech HaBashan. We went on the highway called the Bashan Highway. Bashan is a great name for an area, a gigantic area of land that inside it is a city called the Golan. Bashan, Golan. Or Golan, Bashan. Okay? Shalom. Shalom, shalom to shalom. Okay? So, we're now on the Bashan Highway. Moshe is telling this story, what happened a year ago. Vayetze Og melech HaBashan likratenu. Aha. It sounds clearly here that who is instigating the war? Huh? The king of the Bashan. He's instigating the war. Okay? He's coming up at us. Hu v'chol amola milchama. He has a big army, and he's doing it in a place called Edrei, which is known to be, according to the experts, the kingdom, the city, the capital city, where his palace is. That's called Edrei. Okay. Moshe Rabbeinu tells the story in a speech to the nation. Verse 2, Vayomer Hashem Elai, Al Tira Oto. Pasuk Ben of Perek Gimel, Al Tira Oto. Now, without any of you understanding psychology, I'm going to ask you, Eitan. I know you didn't study in college yet. If someone comes to you and tells you, don't be afraid, what do you understand from that?
Don't be afraid for something.
And what can you construe from that? What can you figure out?
Be careful.
You have to be careful. Very good. What else, Steve? If someone tells you, don't be afraid.
You're given assurance.
You're given insurance, right? What else? What comes to your mind?
Someone tells you not to be afraid, one could assume that in normal such circumstances, one should be afraid.
There's room to be afraid. There's room to be afraid. Excellent.
You don't have the upper hand.
In other words, Ken, why did it take you 70 seconds? Did you use my credit card when you were in there?
Of course I did.
You didn't
Now you understand. Okay, you're gonna stand. Are you gonna stand there for the entire shiur?
No, can I?
Yes, he is.
Can I?
Yes, you can use one of the Sfarim. Oh, excellent. Let's use one of these big books. Actually, the map is really not the map I wanted to use, but let's just say we're all going to use our imagination right now because it's all blank on the east side. Okay? A pen here? No. Okay. Here is Engedi, Engedi. And here is the Arnon brook spilling into the Yam HaMelech. We captured all this land until here. This is the southern Giladi mountain range. Opposite Givat Asaf, when we spent Shabbat there, we were looking here, somewhere here between Moab and the Giladi mountain range. And here, opposite Shechem, okay, on a north-south axis, there's a brook that spills into the Jordan called Yabok, that we learned about.
The really tall mountains there?
We saw that. We saw that on our trip. Right?
It's because Israel's on the Nubian plate or something.
You ask your scientist, I don't know. Right now, we're here. What happened? What did we start doing? Moshe Rabbeinu teaches us here in this speech that we started turning and going up. In which direction we said before? North. Going up north. And here is the northern Giladi mountain range. And here, what is the name of this mountain range? The Golan, Ramat Golan. We learned, and we'll see it too as well in the 6 cities of refuge, that the northeastern city of Ir Miklat is called Golan in the Bashan. Bashan is the greater area. A city is called the Golan. Somewhere over here, a place called Edrei, I don't know exactly, I don't know even approximately, is the kingdom of Og. That's where his palace is apparently. And it says here that he's instigating a war. He's coming down towards us. Now, did you read in the British Daily how tall the king of Bashan is? What kind of big iron bed does he have? Exactly. Let's skip right away to see his figures. I think they were trying to recruit him for the Los Angeles Lakers, but they didn't get him. It says, let's see it, bevakasha. Let's skip to Yud Aleph right now, verse 11. Ki rak Og melech Bashan nishar miyeta Rephaim. He's the only one that was left. Meaning, historically, when the 4 Persian Gulf nations came into the land of Canaan, spiritually, intrinsically, to try to get back at Avram Avinu for having his life salvaged in the furnace of fire, that, who threw him into the furnace of fire? Nimrod. So here we have 4 Persian Gulf entities that come into the Jordanian Valley area by the Dead Sea, and they fight up against 5 nations, large tribes, okay? And the 4 win the war against the 5, and they take into captivity Lot. Thank you. Okay? Amraphel, who's one of the leaders there, he helped kill a lot of the existing giants that were there. One, his life was rescued, his life was saved, it was salvaged, and according to the oral Torah, he's the one who comes running up the Judean hills and mountains and notifies Avram Avinu that his nephew was taken into captivity, put on his New Balance sneakers, and he goes up and runs hundreds of kilometers from the Hebron mountain area all the way up to the It says there, it says up to the Don. It says it goes all the way up to the Dan. Why is it called Dan? Because later, a few hundred years later, the tribe of Dan that we're learning in the Beit Midrash in the afternoon takes over this land in the Hermon Mountains. The point is, Og is the leftover, the remainer, the one that remains from all the giants, it says. Rak Og, I'm going back into the verse, in verse 11, to see the statistics of this guy, why there's reason, like Moshe says, to be afraid of him. Rak Og melech Bashan nishar meyeta Rephaim. He's the only one left over from the giants. Hinei arso, you know what his bed is? Eres barzel. The Rashbam, the grandson of Rashi, says he has an iron bed. So what? Mr. Russell probably has an iron bed as well, don't you? Or wood. Do you? Steel. There you go. He had, so what's so special about an iron? The Rashbam says when he was a baby, he needed an iron bed. He was so big. He was so strong. When he would straighten out his feet and hands, no regular wooden bed could be enough for him. Okay? And what else about him? Halohi berabat b'nei Amon. What is that teaching us? What about berabat b'nei Amon? What do we care about Halohi berabat b'nei Amon?
Amon is displaced then?
According to the Rashbam, this bed is still displaced there where he grew up. He grew up as a youngster there, and everyone was astounded to see that this baby, maybe was put in a museum, this baby used a large size bed of a gigantic person. So it's there. And how long was the bed? Teisha amot orka. 4.5 meters. That's like,
2 times normal.
if this is about 3 meters high, 270. How tall is the ceiling here? 270, 280. Am I right? Okay. So it's 4.5 meters. That's almost double the size of this roof, as far as the height, the length of his bed. And the width, va'arba amot rochba, 2 meters wide. 4 amot, which is 2 meters wide. A standard bed today is how many? Between 80 centimeters and about a meter wide. The Americans like these gigantic big beds, but the Israelis are a little more modest. So we have about a meter, and this is 2 meters. No, we're not talking about a double bed, his and hers. We're talking about a single bed. So when I asked you the question, God comes to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu knows already in prophecy that he's meeting up with a guy that's gigantic. And probably the strength of his army is also very strong. God says to Moshe, Al tira oto. Don't be scared of him. According to the laws of nature, there's reason to be scared. But when God's going to tell Moshe, you have a secret weapon, Hashem, Yudke Vavke, he's behind you. Let's go back to the beginning of the chapter and see these events that are brought. In the middle of verse 2, why not be afraid? Ki v'yadcha natati oto. I delivered him already. He's delivered. He's by you. You're going to overtake him. Ken? Vet kol amo, all his soldiers, vet artzo, his land. This is going to be a territorial thing. Vasita lo, kasher asita lesicho, Menachem mori, asher yosher b'cheshbon. You're going to duplicate, you're going to copy and paste the victory that you had over Sichon, and you're going to have also here over Og. And Moshe Rabbeinu in his speech says this, and listen, gentlemen, this has to be in the national collective memory. This war didn't take place longer than a year ago. Didn't take place longer than a year ago. It was in the 39th, 40th year of our desert trail. Pasuk Gimel, Vayiten Hashem Elokeinu b'yadeinu, he delivered them into our hands. Gam et Og melech haBashan v'et kol amo. Vanakeo was a TKO. Ad bilti ishelo sarid. Nothing was left. The Jewish people were very, very taking of anything and everything. And therefore, listen to this detailed military victory, which is very unusual there. Pasuk 4. Vanilkodet kol arav. All his cities we captured. Ba'itahi. Lo aita kirya. Asher lo lakachnu me'itam. Imagine, not even a village was not taken by the army of Moshe Rabbeinu. Shishim ir, even 60 cities. Kol chevel argov. Kol chevel argov. Apparently it was a very important strip of land, Chevel Argov, was taken over. I don't know exactly where it is. Some say that it's the kingdom area. Let's go on, please. Mamlechet Oga Bashan. Kol Eila, all of this. Arim. What type of cities did we capture? Bitzuot. They were fortified with what? Choma Gvoa. Tall walls. Dlatayim Uvriach. Gates meaning doors and lock. Levad, other than what? Me'area Prazi Harbe Meod. Why did Og, the king of Bashan, have scattered cities unwalled? What is that? What kind of display is that? What kind of... Yes, confidence, power. We're not afraid of anyone. There's no... So we captured both the walled cities and the unwalled cities. What did we do with them? Pasuk 6. We destroyed them. Kasher asinu l'sichon melech Heshbon. Hacharem kol ir mitim. We destroyed every city. Mitim is usually where there are human beings, people living there. Hanashim v'hataf, men, women, and children. Apparently the word mitim is explained as a city where, did we see it also in the war against Sichon? Do we see the word mitim? It's rarely used. Vanacharem kol ir mitim. No, we didn't see it. So, let's go on. What about the animal and livestock in verse 7? V'chol ha'bema, every animal. U'shalal ha'arim, the booty of the cities. Bazonu lanu. We'll ask ourselves, why the word bazonu? Didn't we see the word biza? Why is there again, what's bazonu lanu? We'll try to get to the answer to that question a little later. Vanikach, summary of the war. Ba'etahi. We took at that time. Et ha'aretz, the land, this primary land. Here now is a summary of two wars. Miyat shnei malchei Amori. These are two Amorite kings. Remember, they're Canaanites. Og melech Bashan as well as Sichon. We took over on the other side of the Jordan, Asher Beva Yarden. Notice, Minachal Arnon Adhar Hermon. Tan taran. From here, all the way up to the Hermon, this gigantic mountain range. Right? Amazing. We're talking about a few hundred square kilometers in two wars in the 40th year. Aver HaYarden, the other side of the Jordan River, is captured by Moshe Rabbeinu and his army. And this, we see, is a prelude to coming into the western side of the land of Canaan and capturing the land from the hands of the 7 Canaanite nations. But Moshe Rabbeinu was spelling everything out. Remember what we did. Remember how successful we were, because we had God with us. We'll see, is there or not a tochacha here, a rebuke. Pasuk chet, Pasuk tet, verse 9. Tzidonim yikru leChermon Sirion. V'ha'amori yikru lo Sinir. Look at me. Tzidonim, commonly called in Latin or English, the people living in Sidon. Sidon, off of the Lebanese coast, right? One of the coastal cities of Lebanon, called Sidon. They would call the Hermon what?
Sinir.
No, Sirion. And the Amorites called the Hermon? Sinir. What do we care? What is this, a book of geography? Is this an atlas book? No, it's not. Rashi asked this question, why do we need to know about the Hermon, that it has different names? So Rashi explains, this is the praise of the land of Israel. Every kingdom during the course of history, until the Jewish people conquered the land, every entity that ruled over the land had a different name or nickname for the Hermon. None of you was in contact with me when Corona started. Maybe 1 or 2 students on Zoom from Europe, from Tapuach in the middle of the Shomron, I remember this picture. I was zooming a shur in Nissan it was intercession, but the students wanted to learn, so we learned in the intercession on Zoom, on telephone. It was really hard conditions. And all of a sudden, my daughter from Mid Shomron sends me in Nissan, sends me an unbelievable snapshot of a picture of the Hermon with the white snow caps on top of the mountains in the middle of Nisan, beginning of the spring. And it was an amazing picture. And as I'm giving the shur, I send it out. Yoel Klimko was there. You remember Yoel? Did you know Yoel from Poland?
Yes, I did.
You know, so Yoel was learning with me and a few other students, and it was an amazing picture. We camped. We traveled in the area of the Hermon a week ago with our family, and it's just amazing. The expanse, the height. Looks like a monster. It looks so big, so special. It looks so godly. And now we can understand that during the course of history, until the Jewish people arrived, any national entity that ruled over the Hermon gave it its own name of praise. So we have three names: Hermon, number 2, Sirion, number 3, Senir. Shenir. What is Shenir? When you hear the word in Yiddish or Shenir, German?
Maybe,
Snow. There you go. You need someone in Germany.
Dutch.
Snail.
Dutch. Yeah.
Okay.
Sheleg.
That's why, if anyone has the Targum of Onkelos next to him in his Chumash, you see that he calls it what? Tur Talga, the mountain of snow. As it was then, it is today, the mountain of snow. Okay, and even in the springtime, it's still cold. It's so cold up there, it's 2,000 meters above sea level, it has snow on it. The word Sirion, according to Tehillim, is the blessed mountain, Hara Mevorach. King David also talks about the dew on Hermon in one of his psukim in Tehillim. So everyone throughout Jewish history sees the Hermon as something very unique and special. And now that we've returned to come back to the land of Israel, we see the water sources. We see the rivers that are coming, the waters coming out of the mountains, and now providing the sources of water for the Jordan River, or the Dan River, right? We Nachal Snir, Nachal. We have the Banyas. Have you heard of these places? The Snir, the Banyas. Really, the Banyas is the Panyas. The Romans called it, but the Arabs they cannot pronounce the P, and they pronounce it with the Bet, and therefore they call it the Banyas and not the Panyas. Okay? So every nation glorifies itself with the natural resources that God has blessed the Hermon mountains, and here we see it. Let's continue. Pasuk Tet. Verse verse 10. Kol arei mishor, whatever plain cities, very flat cities, which could be in the Golan, v'chol Gilad, which is on the mountains, v'chol Bashan, ad Salcha. Salcha apparently is the eastern side of the Bashan, which today is Syria. Edrei, they say, is the southern part of the Bashan, which is probably close to the southern part of the Golan. All these areas are in the Jewish people's hands. Okay? What are you smiling for? What are you smiling for?
We're about to learn Torah.
Oh, that's the reason. Come on in. Okay.
Why are you smiling? My answer's for you.
I made Aliyah today.
Now I understand everything. Mazal tov, mazal tov. Mazal tov. I've been here a few years. I don't remember someone from Cuba making Aliyah in Machon Meir, but you're the first. Maybe you're the first. Baruch Hashem. Gentlemen, Mazal Tov. We're continuing to learn. Verse 11. Give this gentleman a chumash. He deserves one. Ki rak og melech habash. I'm sorry. Did I skip that? Yeah, that's what we read before. Let's keep on going. We're skipping to Pasuk Yud Bet. V'ta'aretz azot. This is the land that Moshe Rabbeinu has detailed. Okay? Yarashnu ba'etahi. We captured. Now, Yarashnu Remember the word Hachel Rash, begin conquering? Yerashnu could mean two things. To conquer, or it could mean to settle. But here we believe, as we're going to see, what we captured, we are settling. And now Moshe Rabbeinu will explain why this capturing is leading to having Jews settle in this area. V'ta'aretz hazot, yarashnu ba'etai, at that time we did it. Me'aroer, that's the city, Asher al Nachal Arnon, opposite Giladi, we said the Arnon Brook. And now look how he describes the Giladi into two parts. V'chatzi hara Gilad, half of the mountain range of Gilad, ve'arav and its cities. Let's add the words what we learned formally. Half of the Gilad until which water source? The Yabok, very good. Was we wanted to say that the Yabok divides the Gilad into two parts, the northern and the southern part. Oh, so from the middle of the Arnon until the Yabok, Natati la Ruvaini v'Gadi. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, now in this speech, I've given, right? Already at the end of the book of Bamidbar, we have the agreement between the tribes of Gad, Reuven, and Moshe Rabbeinu, that if they go as the Chalutzim, the pioneering group, crossing the Jordan, going in front of all the soldiers, and they lead us to a military victory, and they even agreed to stay there until we allocate or portion the lands amidst the 12 tribes, and only thereafter go back to their wives and children on the east side. So right now he's describing, I'm giving from the Yabok, from the Arnon over here, all the way up to the Yabok, to Reuven and Gad. To Reuven and Gad. What about the second part of the Giladi mountains? Pasuk 13, V'yetara Gilad, plus V'chola Bashan, okay, all the Bashan, which we said a city in the Bashan is called Golan. The Bashan is a greater area than the Golan. All of this, Mamlechet Og, this kingdom of Og, Natati, I've given, L'chatzi Shevet Menachem. Let me just finish the pasuk and go back to Menachem for a moment. Kol Chevel HaArgov, this strip of land called the Argov strip of land, L'chol Bashanah Hu Yikarei, you know what it'll be called? Eretz Rephaim. That's what really is described in a promise to Avram Avinu. In the Brit Bein Habeta Rim, the covenant of the pieces, this area is already promised as part of the borders of the promised land to Avram Avinu. So something we're studying which is very interesting here. We're in a galut, punishment of 40 years due to the sin of the spies. In the 40th year, we're traveling and passing Edom on the east side. We come up to the Arnon River, and there, who starts up with us? Who hardens his heart? Og Melech HaBashan. And we're commanded, Alei Resh, go conquer the land. And we conquer the land, we win the war with God's help, and then we keep on going northbound, up to the further Giladi area and the Bashan. And there God wants us to conquer a second Canaanite entity. All this is 400 years after the time of Avram Avinu. God promised Avram Avinu the greater borders of the land of Israel. Quote, Minahar Mitzrayim v'ad hanahar. From the Egyptian river until the river. The Egyptian river, several understandings. It could be Vadi El Arish. We said it could mean the Nile River. There's certain difference of opinion. And to the river is the Euphrates, the Prat, which will include the area of this giant area of the Bashan. This is promised, as Rashi explains, to the land of the giants, what I gave to Avram Avinu, Rashi brings here in his commentary. Who remembers what does Menachem have to do with anything? Menachem is a very large tribe with a lot of families, as the Torah describes in the census of Parshat Pinchas. Menachem, according to the Netziv Volozhin, is described in the book of Chronicles, is a tribe who's very strong in Torah. The commentary of Naftali Tzuyuda Berlin, right, the Netziv Volozhin, as perhaps we explained it in our shiur a few weeks ago, says this: the further we go away from Yerushalayim, the danger is of assimilation. Makes sense? The further away from the center, the further we're away from the heart, we could be prone to influence by non-Jewish matters. If Menachem, though, is strong in their Torah abilities, and they were known to be great judges, Yodei Dat V'Din, I forgot the term in Divrei Yamim. Moshe's Rabbeinu, his idea is, let's put Menachem into the agreement. Menachem is a very large tribe. The area from the northern Giladi mountains is a gigantic area. Let us put Menachem, half, perhaps close to half of their families on this side, away from their brothers, who will later get in the book of Yoshua from going north of Shechem, down to the Jordan Valley, down to the Hadera coast. That will be the area of Menachem. Let me have Menachem there as a shomer, guardian. Keep his eyes on Reuven and Gad. Keep them in check spiritually, morally. Keep them closer to Torah. That's how the Netziv Volozhin explains. There's a lot more to investigate and study, the other ideas and opinions, but I wanted to share this with you, that they're going to be getting the area of the Golan and the northern Giladi mountains. But is there another reason why Menachem will be getting this area? Verse 14. Yair ben Menachem. Who? Yair ben Menachem. Lakach, meaning captured, et kol chevel ha'argov. Ad gvul ha'ageshuri v'ha'machati. Vayikra otam al shmo, et Bashan chavot Yair. The farms of Yair, ad hayom hazeh. Until the Torah is finalized, parts of the Bashan are called the farms of Yair. Named after who?
Yair ben Menachem.
Yair ben Menachem. Well, if you look up, which is the book of the Tanakh where it brings us a lot of the summary of the Torah and Nevi'im and tells us the lineage of the people. What's the name of that sefer? Divrei Yamim. Very good. Divrei Yamim Bet, right? That's what you meant, chapter 3. Divrei Yamim Bet, number 2, in chapter 3, we see the lineage of Yair from the tribe of Yehuda.
What?
I'm willing to repeat what I just said. Yair, then Menachem. There we see he's from the family of Peretz. Remember Peretz?
Yes.
The one who break through.
The one that broke through and wanted to get out in this world. And from him will come the Mashiach, the Messianic kingdom from Yehuda. Right? Yair ben Menachem from the tribe of Yehuda, from the family of Peretz. Here, Moshe Rabbeinu connects his lineage to the Menachem family because the mother of his father is from Menachem. The mother, his father, was the daughter of Machir ben Menachem. Now, Yair, even though he's from the tribe of
Yehuda,
he himself had his eyes on the Golan, on the northern Giladi mountains. And he joined his mother's family in warfare. Okay? And that's what the Torah here is describing. The Torah here describing here in verse 14 that Yair led apparently a garrison, a unit of soldiers, and he captured the particular area called Chevel Argov. And you know what's happening? Not only did Yair, whose mother's family is from the tribe of Menachem, not only did he what? Capture these good parts in warfare, from Og Melech Bashan. But Moshe Rabbeinu says, how do you do? I'd like to express my appreciation. And when we're going to be giving to your mother's side of the family, we're going to be giving inheritance, the Golan, the Bashan, the northern Giladi mountains. So here the scripture is confirming that indeed someone that's related to the Menachem family is going to get an inheritance, because the truth is that later on, when we learn about the apportioning of the land in the book of Yoshua, we don't see that it's a portion, but right now Moshe is saying it's going to go to his family. It's going to go to his family. You don't have to portion. He just took it. He took it, and his friends are going to leave. He put a few pegs into the ground and built a few caravans, and then came back and probably crossed the Jordan River with us as well. And it was such an established conquering that he put up signs. Welcome to the farms of Yair. He put up a sign. Here's the farms of Yair ben Menashe, here in the Bashan, in the Golan area. We should have searched for it when we went on our trip, but we didn't find it. In any event, it says it really clearly. And now, you hear about Machir in verse 15. Okay? Because his mother, the mother of his father, is the daughter of Machir ben Menashe. So it says in verse 15, Ula Machir, meaning from the tribe of Menashe, Natati, I gave the Gilad. A further understanding of all the apportioning of the land. Verse 16, Vela Ruveni vela Gadi. Natati mina Gilad, from the Gilad mountains, viad Nachal Arnon. They're going to get that strips of land. Toch hanachal, what's even inside the Nachal, ugvul. I don't understand exactly what the gvul. That the Jordan River itself. So apparently the Jordan River and what's on the other side of the Jordan and what's on the side of the Jordan River will belong to Gilad. I want to bring to your attention, when we learn the book of Yoshua, something interesting happens. We're learning now that the southern Gilad, all the way down to here, is going to Ruvain and Gad. Gad will go down up to here or so, and Ruvain will go down to here. However, when you learn the apportioning of the land at the time of Yoshua, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember, hope my memory doesn't fail me, there's a strip of land next to the Jordan, not on the mountain area, that goes all the way up to the Kinneret, to the tribe of Gad. So Gad is all the way down here on the other side of the Jordan River, and above it, on the mountain range, is the tribe of half of Menashe. So you'll notice that when you study Sefer, maybe that's referred to here. I'm not sure. Does that mean it that God is getting the area of? Maybe this. We can understand it now. Yud Zayin. Look at this. 17. Ha'arava, the valley area, Ve'ayardain, and the Jordan River, Ugvul, Mikineret, Vadyama. So maybe it's talking about the borders. That the border goes from the Kinneret to the Jordan River to the Yam HaMelech to the Dead Sea. I'm not sure. It's hard to understand it. If anyone has an understanding or later does, please tell me. Gentlemen, let's see the end of the speech of Moshe Rabbeinu. Vatzav etchem ba'ita elimor. When we finish this war, I commanded you, I told you, Hashem Elokechem natan lachem et haaretz hazot levishta. Chalutzim ta'avru, you Ruvain and Gad. This is the agreement. God gave you, just like you won the war against Og, and you won the war against Sichon, so too the west side. God gave you, it's delivered into your hands. Go ahead and capture it. Chalutzim ta'avru, you're going to be the first unit crossing the Jordan River. Lifnei achichem b'nei, so you're going to go before them. Kol b'nei chai, you guys are rigorous, very tough soldiers. Who's going to stay back? Pasuk Yutet, verse 19. Rak nishechem v'tapchem u'miknechem yadati. I know. What do I know? Ki mikneh rav lachem. You have a lot of livestock. You have a lot of cattle and sheep. Yeshvu barechem. They'll stay in the cities. Asher natati lachem, that I gave you. When will they be there? When will you be separated from your families? Verse 20, as the agreement was made at the end of the book of Bamidbar, ad until asher yaniach Hashem lachechem, kachem. וירשו גם הם את הארץ אשר השם אלוקיכם נותן לכם בעבר הירדן ושבתם איש לירושתו אשר נתתי לכם. After the war, after the portioning of the land, as we see the book of Yoshua, capturing, apportioning, then you'll go back to your families. Gentlemen, the words Yerusha, capturing, settling, is repeated time and time again as we're coming to the end of this speech of Moshe Rabbeinu here in the beginning of the book of Devarim. And Moshe, and we ask why? Why is each and the word of Yerusha, capture, conquer, settle? Why? Why is it mentioned time and time again? The last two verses to end the Parsha. Ve'et Yehoshua. First time we ever see in all of the Tanakh, Yoshua written with the letter Vav. Always Yoshua is written Yud and then Hey and then Shin. But here is Vav.
This copy of Nevi'im has it written with a vav.
Really? Okay, interesting. If I'm not mistaken, this is the only time that Yoshua is written completely. I think I once saw one of the commentaries say that Yoshua's name is mentioned 30 times in the Chumash. 30 times. And he is about to face in the Canaanite land 31 kings and battle 7 Canaanite entities, of which 31 kings. And maybe the Vav written here, I think he wanted to say, so it's 30 times written regular, chaser, and the 29 times written chaser without a Vav. The 30th time with a Vav, like give him an extra boost to fight up against 31. I think I saw something to that nature.
In the book of Yoshua, it's written with the Vav.
Okay, so here in the Chumash it's not.
It's not. Okay.
Vet Yoshua tziveti, beitei lemor. Okay, the next one in line to take over from Moshe Rabbeinu. Einecha haraot, I see. You saw it yourself. Et kol asher asa Hashem Elokechem l'shnei lachem elu. You saw the knockout that we did to these 2 kings. They were big kings. They were strong nations. You saw that? Ken yaseh Hashem l'chol ha'malachot asher to'over shama. To all the kingdoms, 31 of them that you're going to be meeting up with, God can help you do the same thing. Lo tira'um, don't have fear. Why? There's room to have fear. 31 gigantic kings with armies that have a lot of experience, don't have fear. Why? Ki Hashem Elokechem hu anilcham lachem. When the nation of Israel fights, God of Israel is behind the nation. My dear friends, we've come now to the end of the reading of this parsha, and we see the heavy emphasis at the end of the parsha of conquering the land. And a summary of what we already conquered on the east side of the Jordan River, and we know what's not conquered yet on the west side. And as Moshe Rabbeinu says here, and I heard this from Rav Kashtiel as well, the commandment that is the key commandment here to the nation, led by Yoshua, is Bo u'reshu et haaretz. Go, or come and conquer the land. This will be a major topic throughout the book of Devarim. We obviously understand 36 days before the passing away of Moshe Rabbeinu, we see the importance of the upcoming mitzvah to conquer the land of Israel. That seems to be the most critical matter, the most significant matter. And you know what? It started already. The war against the Canaanites started already by these 2 big battles against Sichon and against Og. And now, Moshe says to Yeshua, go hala, go forward. You're going to continue to do it. What? What's your criticism of Machon Meir? We're always talking about Eretz Yisrael, conquering the land. What can I do? This is what Moshe Rabbeinu put in the Chumash. What do you want from me? Do you hear what they're criticizing Machon Meir about? Talking Eretz Yisrael, conquering the land. But what do you want from us? This seems to be the central item, subject, most significant here in the Chumash. The truth is, the entire Chumash, more or less, is pinpointing that we're going to have to go into the land, abolish idolatry there, capture the land, and now the land of God will be settled by the nation of God. Chumash Devarim. It's preparing the nation. So many prohibitions regarding matters of idolatry, because we're going to be meeting up with 7 Canaanite idolatry nations, and we want to eradicate that and get it out of the land. So we see that if we receive the Torah in the book of Shemot, and beyond that, we started going into all the details of the Mishkan and the Korbanot in the book of Vayikra. And then we learned in the book of Bamidbar, Hashem's management of a nation that has difficulties motioning inside the Midbar, and we see our ups and downs and complaints and punishments and so on and so forth. Now, 36 days before the passing away of Moshe, the significance of this entire Sefer Devarim, sees, as Rav Kashtiel explains, is one major topic which is encompassing, and that is capturing the land of Israel. It's not a military matter only. It's not a cultural matter against idolatry. This is where our natural place of inhabitation shall be. Okay? Some of you have visited a zoo in your life. It's a very boring place. The animals are so boring looking. Have you ever go visiting the lions? They're always sleeping and just sitting. Doesn't happen to you? What? Yes. Why? I thought they're fierce, roaring, and shoeg aryeh shoeg. When you take...
Throw a goat in there.
When you take an animal, a wild animal, and you take him out of his natural habitat, out of his jungle, he becomes so unnatural. The Jewish people are so natural in the land of Israel. That's our natural place of life. That's where we can connect to ourselves, to our land, to the mitzvot, to God. That's what's awaiting us. That's what's awaiting the Jewish people. And we, like the Jewish people in the 40 years of desert, now coming after 2,000 years of exile, and we're up and alive, we're kicking, we're so creative, we're so instrumental. The nation is going forward so fast in all different fields of life. Why? Because this is where we naturally function. This is our great place of inhabitation. I want to share with you Eila Devarim, these are the words of Tochachot, rebuke. Some ask the question, well, where's the rebuke here? It seems to be just a speech of supporting us, lifting up our mental psyche, getting ready to go conquer the land. But the Netziv Volozhin, I wanted to share with you what he says here. The further emphasis of Moshe Rabbeinu on the conquering of the east side of the Jordan River. He says, some of you know, who were the first tribes to exile when the Jewish people are going down and down hundreds of years later in the first Commonwealth? The first tribes are the eastern tribes. The tribes of Gad and Reuven are the first ones to be sent out of the land. Okay? The Midrash says, and he wants to prove it from here, that had Bnei Reuven and Gad not been distributed the eastern side of Eretz Yisrael, they would not have been the first tribes to exile. But the fact they wanted to receive the eastern side, in spite of the fact that the Kedusha, the holiness of the eastern side, is not equal to the holiness of the western side. The western side of the Jordan River, what's called the land of Canaan, is the holy land of the Jewish people given by God. Is the eastern side holy? Yes, but not on the same level as the western side. The eastern side is much more less in level. It has an implication to many mitzvot, like Bikurim and others, and also as far as the force of Torah. The force of Torah is not in the yeshiva in the Giladi mountains. The force of Torah is, like the prophet says, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah udvar Hashem mirushalayim. The Braita in Avot Rabbi Natan says, at the end of chapter 26, people would have the following expression, the following mashal. They would say the following: Dagan, grains in Judah. Teven, what is Teven? It's like straw that we use for building materials. The straw is in the Galilee. And what the wind blows away when you winnow the shaft, the motes. And the motes, the shaft, is on the other side of the Jordan. On the other side of the Jordan is the shaft, things that you throw away. In the Galilee, it is the building material straw, and it's grain in Judah. That midrash is referring to the strength of Torah. The strength of Torah ultimately is in Judah. The Galilee is a lower level, and the other side of the Jordan is even a lower level. Okay? So Moshe Rabbeinu already told us that because of the sin of the spies, we delayed in staying in exile, including the other side of the Jordan River. And that's what caused the Jewish people not to make aliyah from Kadesh Barnea, like we learned in the review here of the Chet Meraglim. Okay? Had we successfully gone forward from Kadesh Barnea, do you know what we would have done? On the I-95 highway in the middle of the guts of Edom. The Netziv explains. Why didn't Edom, 38 years after the sin of the spies, not allow us to go through? They thought that they were advantageous. They thought they were stronger than us. Why did they think we're so weak? We've been hanging out for 30 years. What do you mean hanging out? We've been punished because of the sin of the spies. That's why Edom, the Netziv says, had the guts to tell us, don't come in our land. And they came with their soldiers, and we backed. We retreated, like you explained yesterday. Okay? Melech Edom refused to give us permission to pass through their borders. Had this happened, had we knocked on their door straight at the time from Kadesh Barnea, they would have been scared from the great miracles of the exodus of Egypt and the splitting of the sea. Okay? They would have all been scared, all the alufim, all their generals that we know about. They would have been scared. And then we would have gone straight into Israel, from the Edomite mountains into the land of Israel. What are you asking about? Who's going to be apportioned? The east side of the Jordan River? Do you know what he says, the Netziv? And apparently it's based upon Chazal, I would assume. All of the eastern side of Eretz Yisrael would be apportioned equally to all the tribes. And if that would have happened, there would have never been a galut. All the tribes would have a representation on the east side. All the troubles that we went through in idolatry, if we conquered all the land of Canaan, it would have been a situation of bliss, of spiritual completeness. But we messed up in the sin of the spies. And even those Jews that said, we're going to be Balei Tshuva, let's take ammo, let's go to war, let's climb the mountain and go in. Moshe says, God's not going to be with you. And who smashed us? Seir. The Edomite people smashed us. Ad Chorma. They demolished us. And therefore, the fear of Edom was gone. No more fear of the Jewish people. We won the war against that group that tried to go over the mountain and go into the land of Israel. No more fear by the Edomites about the Jewish people. So too Moab, and so on and so forth. So therefore, now, it didn't happen that way. We're 38 years later. Edom is not scared of us. We're obligated not to fight against them. We have more obligations not to touch Edom, Moab, and Ammon. And now, the Aver HaYarden, the eastern side is conquered. Bnei Reuven and Bnei Gad are so materially oriented. They're close to their cattle and their sheep and their material matters. That's what they're interested in, their material lives. That's their level. We're going to get a land which is on their level. The land of the other side of the Jordan is a lower level in holiness. This, the Netziv says, this is part of the rebuke here that Moshe Rabbeinu is specifying about the conquering of the lands. This is the tochacha. Because of the sin of the spies, all these things developed from the sin of the spies. That instead of going straight into the land of Israel, we're delayed. We conquer the eastern side. 2 tribes are very materially inclined. And all this is a result of the sin of the spies. That's the rebuke that he's trying to explain here, the Netziv explains here regarding this matter. Any questions, gentlemen? I wanted to explain one more matter regarding Bazonu Lanu, if you have time. It said regarding in verse 35 of the former chapter and the war against Sichon, the king of Amori, it says we took spoil. Bazaznu Lanu. Okay? It says Bazaznu. But in Og, it says Bazonu. Why the difference in words as far as taking spoil? So the Netziv says when we went to the second war, we were quite satiated. Only not long ago did we have the first war, and we took so many things to ourselves. Okay? No, not yet Mijan. Meaning we went to the second war against Og after going to the first war against Sichon. In Sichon we took so much beauty. The second war, not long after, it was already, it was disgusting a little. It was like a bizayon. They were not so much attracted to the spoil. Okay? They weren't attracted to it. And therefore, there's a different term that's used, bazaznu or bazonu lanu. You might ask the question that Netziv asks regarding the war against Midian. Wasn't it a later war? The war of revenge against Midian after the war of Og and the Sichon. And there it says bazazu ishlo. Bazazu ishlo. Why the difference in term? Bazazu here and there bazaznu or bazonu. So he says the following answer. The 2 wars against the Canaanite entities were one after the other. Okay? Our eyes were still, we were very satiated after the first war of what we took. Okay? But later on, we went to the third war, the war of revenge against Midian, which could have been who knows how many months after the first 2 wars. Well, it's already not in our mind. It wasn't yesterday or last week. And therefore, the Torah uses a different word, but still from the same shoresh. And he says, biza, taking spoil, means it's like ownerless, as if no owners are there. That's biza. And therefore you take what you want. Okay? When the victor takes out the biza from the owners, and he divides it to everyone equally, well, it's really not hefker. It's going to be divided amongst all the soldiers. And therefore it's called bazaz. Okay? However, when you take what you want for yourself, and the truth is, when we went to war against Sichon, everyone in Israel, unlike the Midianite war, everyone in Israel went to fight. Therefore, they divided the animals like they did in Midian. They divided it. The animals, the cities, which is not the case of Og. Here we see not everyone went to war against Og. We learned that Yair ben Menachem, from the family of Machir, they themselves took their own units and they fought and won in the area there on the Golan Heights. And therefore, there a different term will be used. They take what they want and it's not going to be divided out. So if we see here in the war against Og Bazonu Lanu, it's something that the stronger take what they want, and therefore a different word is used. There's room to explain it further, but we're going to have to stop here. Shakoach, shalom. We're gonna start.